How can a father-in-law even say his daughter-in-law doesn't know how to drive properly? He suddenly snapped, turning violent, and right in front of his own son, he grabbed his daughter-in-law's hand and snapped all 5 of her fingers one by one. The cowardly son had a gun on him. He knew exactly what his father was doing to his wife, but he still didn't have the guts to pull the trigger. It was crystal clear the guy was a total loser. The father-in-law kept up the assault, smashing the car windows and shattering the car itself. Then he ripped off the headrest from the seat and, in a brutal move, rammed it straight into his daughter-in-law's body. The story kicks off with a guy fishing, but his reel suddenly starts spinning at an insane speed. The rod bends and snaps right off. He figured he'd hooked a 40 or 50-pound fish, but when he hauled it up, he was frozen in shock. Instead of a fish, a severed human head was dangling from the hook. Just to give you the heads up, after touching it, it was clear this was definitely a dead person's head. But the question is, how did a dead body get hooked? The very next second, thousands of fishing lines swarmed the guy, wrapped around him, and dragged him down into the icy depths of the lake. The only witness on the scene was a passing lobster. His buddy, Old Bai, noticed the guy was missing and first thought maybe he headed home early because of the heavy rain. But hearing the guy's agonizing screams from afar, Old Bai, like a brave friend, immediately jumped into his boat to save him. Once he reached the middle of the lake, Old Bai tried to pull the mangled guy up, but something underneath was tearing him apart. The lake water turned blood red, and the guy's face was twisted in pure agony. Putting all his strength into it, Old Bai finally managed to pull the guy onto the boat, thinking the job was half done. Why do I say that? Because the entire lower half of the guy was gone. Only the top half of his body was left. Old Bai was on the verge of throwing up, and just as he looked over, he saw a beautiful woman with golden hair floating on the water. Just as he was about to start the boat engine, was there even time? The woman's small hand slowly crawled up the edge of the boat. 3, 2, 1, go! Old Bai was struggling to survive, not even noticing the beautiful woman behind him. Dressed in a one-shoulder outfit, she swam like a pro and used her strength. Suddenly, bubbles started rising, and the water turned boiling hot, causing Old Bai to scream in pain as the scorching water splashed on him. Within minutes, Old Bai's body was essentially cooked, and the smell of charred flesh filled the air, but he somehow made it to the shore. His last thought before taking his final breath was that he'd spent yet another day without catching a single fish. The beautiful girl just walked over his corpse and headed toward the woods, and after walking all night, she finally reached the main road. She didn't even flinch at the high-speed headlights, just standing in the middle of the road, and then it happened. The driver who hit her was named Weiga, and it was his younger brother Joseph's, or Little Joe's, birthday tonight. Little Joe is over 30, doesn't have a real job, and just wastes his time writing horror novels. Weiga bought him an expensive pen as a gift, hoping it would help Little Joe finally get his book published.
Weiga's wife also brought a gift, and while hugging Joseph, she almost ended up kissing him right on the lips. The insecure Weiga got triggered and snapped, asking why she had to disrespect him like that when there are 1,000 ways to say hello. He labeled his wife Chen Tao Jie, or Sister Thousand Rules, and things got heated fast. Chen Tao Jie stormed out to light a cigarette and even asked a passing black man for a light. Weiga saw this and started berating her again, screaming in his drunken stupor, asking if she didn't want to carry on his bloodline. They fought over something so trivial while drunk that they were on the verge of divorce. Weiga, ignoring his brother and sister-in-law, jumped into the car and floored it. One second he was adjusting the radio, the next he saw someone standing right in front of him. The car flipped into a ditch. And when Weiga came to, he couldn't believe his eyes. The girl he'd sent flying 40 meters away was now hanging upside down in the passenger seat, her golden hair dangling as she slowly introduced herself. It was obvious this beautiful woman wasn't human. She was a vessel for something evil. She uttered some strange sounds, and then a dark force began to stir. With the final word she spoke, the car burst into flames, and Weiga was burned to a crisp. That's just the beginning, or the setup for Evil Dead 6. You still have time to hit like and head out before things get worse. 3 days later, the young widow Chen Tao Jie took off a wedding ring and reluctantly got into the car to attend the funeral. Wei Ge's death was actually a relief, but as the daughter-in-law, she had to be there. Once they reached the cemetery, she noticed some disturbing things. First, she had hidden a gun in her bag, which plays a major role later. Second, the mother-in-law, Uncle Bishu, had terrible eyesight and was keeping her pet dog Wang Chai away from everyone. Third, the mother-in-law, or Mei Auntie, had severe Alzheimer's and couldn't even recognize her own daughter-in-law. Fourth, Mei Auntie saw she was wearing sneakers and insisted their feet were the same size, forcing her into leather shoes. The cemetery was in such a weird spot, right next to a construction site, with so much noise you couldn't even hear the eulogy. The whole funeral felt like a black comedy. Mei Auntie went up to speak, breaking down, thinking about her dear eldest son, and by tradition, the widow, Chen Tao Jie, had to say a few words too. But the memories of years of family abuse kept her silent. Whether Mei Auntie did it on purpose or by mistake, the shoes were too small. Her ankles were bleeding, all signs that even with Wei Ge gone, this suffocating marriage was still hurting her body and soul. Mei Auntie was still daydreaming that if Wei Ge were alive, they might have had grandchildren within 2 years. Evil Dead 6 is a movie that exposes how patriarchal family traditions chain down a woman's freedom. For this reason alone, it's far different from your average slasher flick and is absolutely worth a watch. Because of the construction noise, the funeral had to be cut short, and the guy in charge of the cremation was so distracted he nearly tipped the coffin over, listening to rap music on his phone between tasks.
He put on his apron and gloves, then fired up the furnace, acting like he was prepping for a barbecue. Bishu stopped him, insisting he wanted to give his son a proper send-off, but the man wouldn't take no for an answer, barking at Bishu to hurry up. Just as Bishu was leaning over the coffin, sobbing, he heard a sharp, rapid knocking at the door. He checked outside, but nobody was there, and a moment later he realized the sound was actually coming from inside the coffin. Lin Jiangying once said that if a coffin is buried vertically, the descendants will prosper, but if it's laid horizontally, there's a chance for resurrection. So Bishu was convinced Wei Ge wasn't actually dead. He grabbed a crowbar and pried the lid open, but it wasn't Wei Ge who came out. It was a demon straight from hell. The demon ripped the guy standing by the coffin to shreds and instantly possessed Bishu's body, though nobody noticed that his pupils had completely changed. After the funeral, the family headed back to their ancestral home in Ma Jia Tun, a few kilometers away. It was a massive old property that their grandfather, Jonathan, had left for little Joe. Joe hadn't taken care of it, so the place looked like a total haunted house, especially the attic, which was piled high with old handwritten manuscripts. Mei Auntie had told Joe to toss the manuscripts, but Joe was just as eccentric as his grandfather. He loved studying demons and black magic, thinking it was great material for his horror novels, so he kept them. As Mei Auntie complained about her father's flaws and stuffing the manuscripts into trash bags, the grandmother suddenly fell ill and started struggling with the 2 daughters-in-law. Mei Auntie got busy calming her mother down and told little Joe to take the trash bags outside. As Joe passed the storage room, he saw his father, Bishu, trying to fix an old lawnmower. Bishu didn't want to talk to Joe because everyone knew the old man only loved Wei Ge and thought Joe was a total loser and an incompetent son. After cursing Joe and sending him away, Bishu took the machine into the basement. Once down there, he heard Wei Ge calling his name, but when he looked up, he saw the voice wasn't coming from a person, but from a corpse split in half by a rat trap. Before the words even finished, the lights went out. Bishu realized he'd walked right into a demonic trap. He pulled out a knife to fight back, but could physical strength really win against dark magic? Luckily, Chen Tao Jie walked into the storage room with a glass of wine and unknowingly interrupted the ritual. She mistakenly thought Bishu was so distraught over his son's death that he was trying to slash his own wrists, so she snatched the knife away without asking any questions. An hour passed, and Mei Auntie was busy in the kitchen making dinner.
The whole family sat down at the table, forced to reminisce about Wei Ge Wei-ge before they could even eat. It was like rubbing salt in a wound for Chen Tao Jie, so she tried to finish her meal quickly and get out of there. But Mei Auntie, playing the typical mother-in-law card, started lecturing her, saying that as long as a woman doesn't divorce, she's part of the husband's family, assets, and their property even in death. Bushu was distracted, struggling to find a bottle opener, and insulting little Joe, blaming him for the fact that Wei-ge died while driving drunk. Joe pushed all the blame onto Chen Tao Jie, and a huge fight broke out. Seeing an opening, Bushu grabbed a fork. Everyone was terrified. How could a normal person like Bushu just casually kill the dog? The rest stayed home, and little Joe told his wife, Aya, who hadn't been drinking, to get the car so they could take Bushu to the doctor. Halfway there, Bushu suddenly sat bolt upright, and Aya was terrified. Why were Bushu's eyes glowing? While Joe was confused, Bushu seized the chance to snatch the scissors from Aya and slashed her. The out-of-control car swerved into a ditch. Bushu ripped the keys out and kept attacking Aya. Joe tried to hold Bushu back with the seatbelt, but the old man's strength was supernatural. I'm telling you, when you buy a car, you've got to check for child locks or anti-pinch features. Bushu kept using his strength, basically turning little Joe into a punching bag. The roof and the sunroof were smashed to pieces, and the airbags even deployed. Seeing his father attacking his wife, Joe pulled out the gun he kept for self-defense. Aya screamed that he should stop talking and just shoot, but Joe was such a coward he couldn't pull the trigger. He didn't want the burden of patricide. Aya figured she had to do it herself. She grabbed the car's fire extinguisher and smashed it into Bushu's head. Smoke filled the car, giving them a chance to escape. It's wild. Little Joe scrambled out the sunroof, but didn't even try to save Aya. With no weapon in sight, Bushu ripped off the seat's headrest and beat Aya to death right in front of little Joe. I told you, you should always buy a car with integrated or heavy-duty seats. While little Joe ran back to his home to save his own skin, Chen Tao Jie and Mei Auntie were out burying the dog, Wang Chai. Snow was falling and everything felt bleak. Chen Tao Jie collapsed in the storage room from exhaustion, and her movement knocked over the trash bag little Joe had left behind. The manuscript spilled everywhere. It was just trash. They could have just cleaned it up, but Chen Tao Jie was too curious. She picked up a manuscript and saw it was actually the forbidden book of the dead for summoning hell's demons. 3 words were all it took to summon the devil. That's right, Chen Tao Jie unknowingly muttered the words just like I would. That's where the danger started. The dog that had died was brought back to life by the demon. Chen Tao Jie used those heavy-duty scissors to end Wang Chai all over again. Mei Auntie had no idea what was happening. She was busy organizing dishes in the kitchen. The house didn't look like much, but the collection of knives and cutlery was top tier, which would make future murders a lot easier. Just then, Chen Tao Jie walked in and said, "Bad news. The dog died, came back to life, and then died again." Before she could even finish, little Joe ran inside with even worse news. His father had killed his wife, and just as he finished,
Aya's voice echoed from outside, and little Joe was stunned. Chen Tao Jie nervously opened the door, and what they saw next was enough to make anyone pass out. Aya was standing there, covered in mud and drenched in blood, wearing a grotesque smile, and she'd even brought that headrest back with her. A normal person would have been dead and gone by now, but Aya just tossed the headrest aside and walked straight toward the dining table. She grabbed a candle, let out a piercing shriek, and gulped it down. She chugged the melted wax like it was fine wine, completely unfazed by the heat. After finishing her meal, Aya lunged at Mei Auntie. Chen Tao Jie and little Joe struggled to drag her away and locked her in the basement. Joe didn't have time to worry about Aya anymore. He needed to get his family and get out of there. They headed toward the door with Grandma, but stopped dead in their tracks. It wasn't just that they didn't want to leave, there was no way out. Bushu was standing right in front of the door, holding little Joe's gun. He shoved the barrel into his own mouth, fired the first shot into the back of his head, and everything blew apart like a firework. He fired the second into his forehead, and the third into his chin. Even after all that, he didn't die. It was like a scene straight out of an American Three Guns movie. Now, these 4, the grandpa, the grandson, and the 2 wives, were all trapped in this snowed-in house. Outside was zombie Bushu, and down in the basement was the immortal Aya. When Chen Tao Jie and little Joe had locked Aya in the basement, she broke the door down in full The Shining style. She gestured for Grandma to unlock the latch.
Once free, Aya vanished, leaving nothing but bloodstains on the floor. Suddenly, Chen Tao Jie felt something hot dripping onto her cheek. She looked up and saw Aya crawling on the ceiling like Spider-Man. Even as the only surviving male, little Joe was curled up in fear, offering zero help. Chen Tao Jie was screaming for her life, and Aya just told her to stop wasting energy. Back when Bushu was beating Aya, little Joe had run away. A guy who can't even save his own wife. Was he really gonna save his sister-in-law? The real fault lies with Mei Auntie for raising such a cowardly mama's boy son. The demon wasn't killing little Joe right away because it was looking for something specific. Only Joe, who had read his grandfather's manuscripts, knew where it was. Little Joe grabbed an electric cutter, thinking he could fend off Aya, but it backfired. Aya pinned herself against the dishwasher and tried to beat the truth out of it. Suddenly, little Joe stabbed a bottle opener in Aya's neck. Aya just laughed and said, "I told you to kill your father and you couldn't, but now you enjoy killing me?" Aya's words were dead on, hitting Joe right where it hurt. When the moment came to finish her off, little Joe became unnaturally violent. Watching it all, Chen Tao Jie remembered Wei Ge's abuse. It was exactly how little Joe was acting now. It seems like the blood of evil and violence runs deep in this family.
After cooling down for a second, little Joe revealed the secret hidden in the manuscripts. Once, there was a group of wise men who formed a strict organization called Wisdom World. They believed in the existence of the Book of the Dead, a strange text with incantations that could summon demons. Their grandfather had spent his whole life searching for a weapon to stop the devil. Little Joe didn't know what it was, but he was certain it was hidden somewhere in the attic. That's why the demon took control of Bei Shu and Aya to attack the house. It wanted to find that weapon, destroy it, and become invincible. When direct attacks failed, the demon went to Plan B, instilling fear into their minds. Meanwhile, Mei Auntie was trying to calm her fearful mother and put her to sleep. Caring for her mother was her duty, right? Grandma, acting like a small child, kept saying there was a monster under the bed. Mei Auntie checked the floor and saw nothing but dust. But as soon as she stood up, Grandma, still wrapped in her blanket, sat straight up and stretched until she was as tall as the ceiling. This wasn't a miracle. The demon had possessed Grandma. She pulled Mei Auntie close and whispered that the family is best when they're all together. Grandma pointed to the window, signaling for Mei Auntie to open it and let Bei Shu inside. Even at her age, Mei Auntie was lovesick, so she hugged Bei Shu and started kissing. The taste of blood and chunks of flesh on those lips, just thinking about it is nightmare fuel. After the kiss, Mei Auntie seemed refreshed, her pupils turning yellow. She began trying to convince little Joe to give up the fight and hand over the object the demon wanted. Little Joe was shocked. Why was his mother suddenly surrendering? This Kandarian Dagger is the key to the Evil Dead series, the very life force of the demon. To use Bei Shu as an example, the Kandarian demon isn't your average ghost. It's an ancient evil spirit. It has no body of its own, so it destroys by possessing living people or corpses. You can't kill it with regular pistols or weapons unless you chop off the head or smash it to pieces like Aya. And this Kandarian Dagger is the magical weapon for exorcism that can easily annihilate the demon. Bei Shu was tearing the house apart, destroying everything in sight. Chen Tao Jie prayed silently, not to be seen, as she crawled toward the storage room. Little Joe couldn't hold Bei Shu back any longer, so he told Chen Tao Jie to hurry up to the attic and find that dagger.
Chen Tao Jie was totally blindsided by all this, thinking, I don't even know what that dagger looks like. Where am I supposed to find it? First things first, she needed a weapon to stay alive, and that lawnmower was perfect for the job. It spins thousands of times a minute. Whatever demon comes at her, it's getting shredded like a salad. But as she was heading upstairs, she tripped over a wedding dress, like her sweet dream of marriage just shattered into a million pieces. Taking advantage of the distraction, possessed Grandma attacked from behind. The old lady had the strength of an Olympic athlete, pinning Chen Tao Jie right onto the lawnmower. With no way to move, and seeing Chen Tao Jie wasn't saying a word, Grandma rammed that pin straight into her ear. At that critical moment, Chen Tao Jie grabbed a shard of glass and jammed it right into Grandma's eye socket. The possessed
possessed woman limped up for a second, but the problem was the pen was still stuck in Chen Tao Jie's ear. She yanked it out, breaking it in two, with nothing but ink swirling inside her head. Looking over, she saw Grandma stabbing her own thigh with the glass shard. What insane persistence! The next second, it looked like little Joe was finished. He looked dead. Chen Tao Jie grabbed the lawnmower, dragged the unconscious Mei auntie, and hauled her into the upstairs bathroom. Even though their mother-in-law-daughter-in-law relationship was toxic, the fact that Chen Tao Jie tried to save her was honestly commendable. To keep Mei auntie from changing again, she strapped her to the toilet seat and used tweezers to pull the pen nib out of her own ear. She told Mei auntie, "Your precious son, Wei Ge, was a serial domestic abuser. Those thousands of bruises you see on my stomach, they were all gifts from your son." While talking, Chen Tao Jie raised the lawnmower, planning to cut through the wooden floor. Mei auntie, lying near the heater, looked like she didn't care if she burned to a crisp. Her movements showed she was completely a slave to the demon. Mei auntie suddenly snapped up, and after a fierce struggle, they both tumbled onto the bathtub. In the middle of the fight, Mei auntie scurried up the ceiling like Spider-Man. Chen Tao Jie slashed her face with a razor, and after she fell from above, she finished her off with the lawnmower, turning her into a bloody mess. The scene was so gruesome I'll spare you the details. You can use your imagination. After climbing through the hole into the attic, Chen Tao Jie remembered she was still looking for that dagger. A bunch of knives spilled out of her bag. She didn't even know which one was the real deal. Right then, the demon possessed the dead body of little Joe and crawled up. Chen Tao Jie thought, fine, let's test them one by one.
She stabbed 9 knives into Joe's body, and surprisingly, the most ordinary-looking one turned out to be the Kandarian Dagger. The demon tried to play a trick, leading her down the wrong path, but in the end, Chen Tao Jie scrambled onto the roof for dear life. She didn't get hurt much from the fall, but the dagger slipped and landed on the door stairs. There was no other way. Chen Tao Jie ran, with Mei auntie chasing her at lightning speed. Chen Tao Jie dove into the chimney, locking herself in, and raising the lawnmower ready to turn Mei auntie into ribbons the second she stepped inside. When she entered, a massive shriek rang out. Mei auntie's body was ripped apart, and she had no fight left. The kicker? The dagger was still in play. It flew up on its own and jammed the lawnmower. The second the dagger snapped in two, the battle reached its peak. Chen Tao Jie flicked the lighter, and Bishu's body went up in flames, turning him into human kebab. And that loyal dog Wang Chai, he picked up the dagger and finished the demon in one blow. A massive fireball swallowed the old house, as if burning away all its bitter memories. Chen Tao Jie collapsed in the open field, exhausted, hearing the demon's mocking voice. "Are you still here because you like it, or are you just that pathetic?" Looking back, she saw something skeletal-like emerging from the fire, just like the Terminator T-800. It was the demon, trying to break her mentally by taking on Wei Ge's form. It kept saying, "I promised you death wouldn't cost us anything. I'll keep my word. Alice, this will help me. Are you there?" It was on a loop. The director was really critiquing patriarchal society here, the kind that refuses to give up control over women. The movie keeps hammering home that a woman must marry, have kids, and live a certain way, all ways to strip away a woman's freedom, using her as nothing but a machine. Honestly, there's no difference between this 2026 Evil Dead 6 and Ibsen's A Doll's House from 150 years ago. The only difference is, Nora had the guts to leave the house, while Chen Tao Jie just wanted to run away. Eventually, the demon forced her to be brave. For the final showdown, Chen Tao Jie would turn to the construction site from earlier that day. The workers were long gone. The place was a total graveyard. When she called for help on the walkie-talkie, the demon's voice came back from the other side. Shadows danced and vanished in the strobe lights. As Chen Tao Jie peeked out, she was suddenly lifted into the air. A steel rod pierced her ankle, and she writhed in agony. The machines roared, and molten pitch began to pour. If she had just laid there, the pitch would have hardened and buried her alive, maybe leaving behind a single corpse. But would the demon let her go that easily? It needed to know where the dagger was before she died. Chen Tao Jie threw a regular knife into the pit of pitch. While the demon went to grab it, she grabbed a heavy air gun. The pressure was so intense it would peel the skin right off a person. The shredded demon sank deep into the sticky pitch. Was it all over? The Kandarian dagger pierced the demon's chest, and in the blink of an eye, the illusions faded. Chen Tao Jie saw the demon in Wei Ge's form, saying in a loving tone, "I love you." Love? love can go to hell. Chen Tao Jie wasn't falling for another fake promise. She broke out of the trance and crushed the demon's head with her bare hands. The sound and the feeling were pure relief. By the time she sent the demon back to hell, the day was bright again. The police, who showed up way too late, helped the near-dead Chen Tao Jie down. The rescuers asked her what she needed, and she just said, "Give me a cigarette." So friends, let's take a puff together. Okay, the hellish chapter of Evil Dead 6 is wrapped up. This movie cost $30 million to make and raked in over $200 million globally, shattering every record in the Evil Dead series. That means we're definitely getting a more terrifying Evil Dead 7 in the near future. For all my horror-loving fans, this is great news. If you're not into horror, you won't get the vibe. If you thought this quick movie breakdown was solid, smash that like button, share it, and subscribe. That one click of support is everything to me. See you in the next one.